In section 5, we look at the equation that would be used to graph a circle in the coordinate plane. That circle is going to be based on the distance formula because a circle is going to be every point that is the same distance away from a center. So starting with the distance formula, thinking about that distance as a radius, we would put everything into our equation like this. We would think about our center point HK, so here I have it at 3, 4, and then I want to know everywhere going around the circle where I have the same radius. Now to do that I would need the same changes in x and the same changes in y so that this r always stays the same. And so even though my x and y changes, as I go around with these different right triangles here, I'm really just using the Pythagorean theorem to make sure that my hypotenuse is always the same. But that's going to trace, as I go around, a circle. If I make small changes to this, for example, if I make this value a negative k, then that would move my center point down, changing my formula here so I have a minus and negative here. And so our equation would be this. We take x minus h. H is the coordinate of the x value of our center, and k would be the coordinate of the y value of our center. And so we put that x minus h squared and the y minus k squared. So the x goes with h because h is an x value, k is a y value. They go together. And then those will be equal to the radius squared. So in your equation you might see that as 16, but the radius would actually be 4. So if I'm given some of the details about a circle, it has a center at 2, 4 and a diameter of 4, I want to put that into my equation of the circle. Now first of all, I don't want the diameter, I want the radius, so I'm going to need to change that. The radius is half the diameter, so I'm going to use the radius is equal to 2. I'm also going to look at my center point. Remember that that's always at the point HK, where h is the x, k is the y. So h equals negative 2, k equals 4. I'm going to put all of this into my formula then. I'm going to keep x, y the same, but I'm going to use x minus h. Since this is a negative, that minus has to become a plus 2, okay, because this is a minus a negative 2. And then I'll square it plus, and we have y minus k, which is a positive 4, so it's minus k. And then it's going to be equal to my radius squared. My radius was 2, so 2 squared will give me 4. And that's all we need to do to write an equation for the circle in standard form. In this one we're given a circle, we're given some details about that. It has a center at 1, negative 3, and it passes through the point 2, 2. So looking where these things are, notice it won't be easy just to see what our radius is on this particular picture. Instead, I might need to use the Pythagorean theorem or use the distance formula to find that radius. So I want to know how far apart my center and any point on the radius is, and so I'm going to use my distance formula. The radius is the distance I'm looking for. It will be equal to the difference in my x's, which would be 2 on the outside minus 1, plus the changes in my y's, so another 2 minus, and then in the middle I'm using a negative 3, and square that, which will come to the square root of 1 squared gives me 1, 2 minus a negative 3 is 5, 5 squared will give us 25, and so we're looking at the square root of 26 for my radius. Now I don't want to simplify that because it's actually going to help us in the next step to leave this as the square root of 26. I want to now write the equation of this circle, so I'll look again at my center point. This is my HK right here. So h for x, k for y, and so x minus h, which was 1, plus y minus k. Here we have a negative 3, which will change this to a positive, and then equal to the radius squared. So here my radius is square root of 26, so radius squared would be 26. In this last example, we want to look at the equation, which we have right here, and use that to graph our circle. So the first thing we'll look at is our center point HK. We're going to compare that to our equation. Remember that we wanted h minus k, but this is a plus 2, which means our h must be actually negative 2. Our k is supposed to be y minus k. We have y minus 3. That means k is equal to a positive 3. And so we can graph that center point at negative 2, 3. Next we'll look at our equation and look at the radius of that. Now remember, our equation says r squared. So if we're looking for the radius, we need the square root of 16, which would be 4. So from the center point, which was at -2, 3, I'm going to go 4 in every direction. I could go up, down, left, and right. But I can't really get every point like this unless I use my compass. So we would use our compass to draw that circle, to get a circle that has a radius of 4.